Reddit, what's your high school's tragedy? NSFW. A kid left a party pretty drunk and drove home. He made it there, but he was locked out of his house, so instead of waking his parents up and getting in trouble for being drunk and drunk driving, he decided to go back to the party. He went off the road and into a river and died there. A kid in year 7, 11 years old, killed himself after being bullied. A few of my friends in 6th form got on the same bus as him and were trying to help. They used to see him run home after he got off as he was so scared. Poor kid. We can go two ways with this. The time when someone shit in the hallway after lunch hour, or when someone had a baby in the bathroom. We had someone throw shit all up the walls in the bathroom. Had a special assembly about it and everything. Haha. I always loved the school-wide assemblies we would have after an isolated incident like that would happen. 99% of us know not to shit on the walls. But I don't think having an assembly is going to prevent the 1% of shitters from doing the deed. As someone who goes to a school of 2,000 students, the idea of 20 unstoppable wall shitters terrifies me. The Romeo and Juliet couple. She killed herself. Then a few weeks later he killed himself because he couldn't stand to be without her. I guess they learned nothing from reading the play. A girl in my grade was diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor in junior year. Always a very sweet girl. By senior year she physically couldn't move or talk anymore. A month later she passed away. At our graduation they had her family come up and gave them her diploma. Something like that happened in my school, except it was at the start of senior year when he was diagnosed and he died before graduation. His best friend did a memorial song tribute at graduation and I think just about everyone cried. I don't think I'll ever forget that. A couple summers back, two dudes I went to high school with and one of their friends were driving home at 4 p.m. from their internship. They were driving down the highway, doing everything right. Suddenly a truck from the other lane went across the median and hit them head-on at 70 miles per hour. They died instantly. The girl in the back was knocked unconscious, but she lived. The driver of the truck that hit them lived, too. He was 19 and was drunk driving. It sucks when the good guys die and the scumbags live. I still occasionally check their social media profiles. Always so surreal to see that they were commenting and interacting one day and the accounts went cold the next. Super sad stuff. When I was in grade 10, a very popular phys ed French teacher had a massive heart attack during an after-school program, and died on the spot. A 12-year-old girl was shot in the face by her brother who was cleaning his shotgun. The school administration had a tree planted in her memory. It's still there almost 20 years later. One of my best friends passed away from an asthma attack during his sophomore year. He had run out of his inhaler and couldn't find his backup. We had this one teacher. She was the quest teacher. It was a health class basically. She talked about sex ed stuff and the dangers of smoking. That sort of thing. We got to sit on couches in a big circle rather than desks in rows. She had breast cancer, and it was pretty bad. She was bald from the chemo, and had a port installed on her chest so they could just inject into that since they had already destroyed all the veins on her arms or whatnot. Despite all this hardship, she was one of the warmest, sweetest, most cheerful, most loving people I have ever met. I'll always remember one particular thing that she said. She talked about going to a friend's funeral recently. The friend had died an agonizing and slow death from cancer. My teacher wore a brightly colored floral pattern dress while everyone else was wearing black. She did this because she was not mourning. She was celebrating the end of her friend's suffering. She had accepted death and made peace with it, and knew that it was just the natural course of life. She died a year later and the whole school was devastated. I made sure to wear bright colors. About a half dozen kids died in an avalanche on a ski trip, including some of my friends. During a cross-country competition at my old high school, one girl was chased around the school and raped multiple times in multiple bathrooms by a group of boys. The doors to the school remained unlocked for some reason, though there were no staff actually in the building. Her parents tried suing for it, but the school brushes it under the rug. To my knowledge, nothing ever became of the situation, even though there was camera footage of them chasing her and following her into bathrooms and such. This is one of those stories that, in my country, usually ends with the father going on a vicious hellride of mutilation and murder that producers love to make films about. Hell, if it were my kid, there would be no force on this planet that would stop me from killing the entire lot of them. Two girls, one who had attended my primary school, drowned on a school trip, and the teacher who was injured trying to save them was blamed for it by the press and went into depression for years. He was back teaching by the time I went up to secondary school, and it broke my heart to see the things they said about him and how badly it messed him up at the time, because he's the loveliest, kindest old man I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. Also, some guy got electrocuted and died whilst nicking copper wire from the train station, but he'd been excluded for threatening someone with a knife at that point. Guys, I was like 4 at the time it happened. There wasn't a lot I could have done to stop them slandering him. A good friend of mine's older sister killed herself. I went to high school on a college campus, and she had just graduated high school, but was continuing there for college. In our second semester, she intentionally overdosed on pills, and no one really knows why. Most of the school was devastated. She was attractive, popular, intelligent, and was friends with just about everyone. The school was only about 250 people. She always seemed so cheerful. I still wonder to this day what went wrong. A girl named Joy was insanely happy and nice and popular, had an aneurysm and died. She was uncharacteristically mean that day and told everyone she had a headache. It happened in the hallway and she just kinda slumped against the lockers. We found her when classes let out. One kid said, "Joy's here in the hall." A huge jock dude picked her up and took her to the nurse, and someone called 911. She had been dead for some time by then. Saddest thing I ever saw. She was the sweetest person. Ate lunch with the special kids a few times a month. She was a sophomore and insanely popular. She was really tiny, and one time at a dance a weird rap mosh pit formed. Joy got to crowd surf. She really resembled a tiny, fairy-like girl. Our whole school mourned her for months. There was a huge race-based fight that had been going on, and the senior boys rounded up a Chinese boys and beat him till he died. Beforehand there were a lot of fights leading up to that, so I don't really think it matters who did what. Just a lot of anger and hate fueling something that shouldn't have come in between all of us. It was scary. They issued a warning saying if they see any Chinese around after school they would gut them. I remember waiting in class until I was sure my mom came and got me. A friend of mine was getting off a bus in front of her twin brother. She remarked to me that she just wanted to help people in the future as her job, a nurse or a doctor or something. Then a car swerved to avoid a fender bender, mounted the curb, struck her, and she died on scene. I was her locker partner. I had to give everything to her parents and brother. As a twin, these stories really affect me. I don't know how I could continue living if my twin died. She is a part of me crying. 3 girls in my high school accidentally drove their pickup off a cliff into the river. Only one survived. It took 2 weeks to find one of the bodies because the surviving girl managed to pull her from the truck in an attempt to save her, but let go when she couldn't hold her breath any longer and the body was swept downriver. Damn. But honestly, I'm glad she tried saving her though. Murder. There were a couple of members of staff that were married. The wife was seeing someone else. I can't remember if they were getting divorced or not, but the husband killed the wife and dumped the body on school property to be later found by one of the teachers. Within 3 years my high school lost 8 students. 7 were due to drinking and driving, but the 8th was taped and burned alive in his trunk. Dude, what the f***? A girl got hit by a school bus full of students right in front of the school. She was crushed and died instantly. Her best friend was on the bus that hit her. It was so terribly tragic and traumatic for absolutely everyone involved. A science teacher that everyone loved got exposed as being in a relationship with a 15-year-old and committed suicide. Someone took the ranch dressing from the cafeteria into the bathroom, jizzed in it, and put it back. A student went on a trip with her family. Her dad was a licensed pilot, but only for small single-engine aircraft. He rented a larger 2-engine plane to take them on their trip. Somewhere along the line, something happened he couldn't handle, crashed the plane, and the whole family died.